So today I'm going to make my grandmother's eggplant parm recipe. I'm going to lighten it up slightly. My grandmother would have fried the eggplant, and instead I'm going to bake it. We still bread it and slather it with tomato sauce and mozzarella. So, um, you know, take the lightening up with a grain of salt. In any event, let me show you what we're going to do. So we're going to take this eggplant and we're going to peel it and slice it into 1/4 inch circles. Okay, so I've peeled and sliced my eggplant into 1/4 inch discs, and now I'm going to add it to a pan where I already have 3 eggplant that I've cut up. And for this recipe, I'm using 4 medium-sized eggplant. Um, and to this, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of salt, and I'm going to toss it together. And then I'm going to put all the eggplant into this colander, into my sink. And I'm going to just let it sit there and drain the excess water out of the eggplant for a good hour. And then at that point, we'll turn to the breading. And I just want to show you how this is done. So I have half of the eggplant in this pan. I'm going to sprinkle it with 1 tablespoon of salt. And then I'm just going to mix that all around, put the other half of the eggplant, so that's 2 eggplants, in addition to the 2 that are already in the pan. I'm going to put these 2 eggplants on top of these, sprinkle them with a tablespoon of salt, so that's 2 tablespoons of salt total. And then I'm going to put all the eggplant, again, into the colander in the sink to drain. So if you've been watching this series of videos, you're probably asking yourself about now, where is my introductory list of ingredients? And here lies the problem with my grandmother's eggplant parm. My grandmother did not write down recipes. She cooked by instinct, and I cooked by watching her. So it's kind of a, well, there are some basic ingredients. So we already talked about the eggplant. I have in this dish 2 cups of Parmesan cheese that I've grated. And to that, I'm going to add an entire canister of Italian-style breadcrumbs. I'm then going to combine 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 2 teaspoons of black pepper into this Ziploc bag. And I'm going to beat 8 eggs into this pie plate. And that's going to be our breading for the eggplant. Basically, we're going to, when the eggplant is finished draining and I've pressed off any excess liquid, we're going to put the eggplant slices in the flour pepper mixture and shake them around. We're then going to dip them in the egg, and then we're going to dip them in the breadcrumb Parmesan mixture. And there's really no rhyme or reason. If you run out of flour pepper mixture, you just add more. If you run out of breadcrumb Parmesan mixture, you make more. If you run out of eggs, you beat some more up. So I would have a dozen of eggs handy, just in case. Again, I'm using 4 eggplant. You can cut this recipe in half. But I make this for the week, so there you go. So again, just to recap, for 4 eggplant, I'm using 2 cups of all-purpose flour with 2 teaspoons of pepper, which I'm going to put in this Ziploc bag, 2 cups Parmesan cheese, and a canister of Italian-style breadcrumbs. And then I'm going to beat 8 eggs into this pie plate. And again, if I run out, I will just use the pinch and dash method to make some more flour and or breadcrumb mixture and or egg. So that's going to be our breading. And then once the eggplant is breaded, we're going to cook that in the oven, and I'll explain that a little later. And then to make the actual Parmesan, we're going to use the tomato sauce, which I made in the Sunday gravy and meatballs video. That's part of this series. And we're also going to need mozzarella. And I have about 4 of these little Narragansett Creamery guys, which is just a local company here in Rhode Island, and they make really good cheese and yogurt. But their mozzarella is particularly good, so that's what I'm going with. So I have 4 of these little guys, and you can use as little or as much mozzarella as you want. So I will check on the eggplant, and then we will move on to breading. So the eggplant has drained in the colander for about an hour, and what I've done is I've taken it out of the colander, patted it dry with a paper towel, and what I've done is with a cookie sheet, I put a triple layer of paper towels down, put the eggplant on top of that, and then topped it with a triple layer of paper towels. And what I'm going to do is just with my hands, I'm going to press down on the eggplant just to get out as much of the remaining water as I can. And as you can see, the paper towel is damp, so this is an important step to do because you want to try to make your eggplant as dry as possible. And once this process is finished, we will start breading the eggplant. But to get ready for that, I have preheated my oven to 425 degrees, and I put my racks on the upper middle and lower middle slots in the oven, and I put in 2 cookie trays, which I am warming in the oven. And that again is an important step, and that will make sense when we start breading the eggplant, which is next. Okay, so we're now ready to bread the eggplant. And what I have here is sort of a station setup. I've got our flour, which is 2 cups of flour and 2 teaspoons of black pepper in a Ziploc bag. 8 eggs beaten in a 10-inch pie plate, just because it makes it easier to dip. And then our breadcrumb mixture, which again was 2 cups of Parmesan cheese grated, and a canister of Italian-style seasoned breadcrumbs. And just a word about the Italian-style seasoned breadcrumbs. I like them. It's what my grandmother used. They're great. If you want to use plain breadcrumbs and season them yourself, you can do that. If you want to make your own breadcrumbs, you can do that too. You can use panko breadcrumbs. Really, the options are limitless. The one thing I do, just so you know, is I always look at the label to see what the seasonings are. And in this brand, the one thing that was missing was oregano. So I added 2 tablespoons of oregano to my breadcrumb mixture because I like oregano. So so there you go. And this breading that we're going to do, we're going to be getting the eggplant, dipping it in the flour, then the egg, then the breadcrumbs. That's versatile for anything. So if you're making chicken parm, you can use chicken breasts. Really anything you want to bread. This is a good sort of go-to combo of the flour, egg, and breadcrumb mixture. So let's start dipping. So got my flour bag open, and I'm just going to put about 10 of the eggplant rounds in here to start. Let's do a few more because some of them are small. Okay, and I'm just going to seal the bag and shake it around until the eggplant is coated. So here's our eggplant coated in flour. Now I'm going to dip it in the egg, just to get it good and coated. And now into the breadcrumb mixture. And there you go, breaded eggplant. So I'll do one more. And you are going to have to wash your hands repeatedly, otherwise you're going to be covered in gunk. So once again, floured eggplant, just shaking off the excess into the egg. And now the breadcrumbs. And you're just going to keep doing this until all the eggplant is breaded. Okay, I've finished breading all the eggplant, and I've got it all layered on this cookie sheet. And let me just warn you now, breading all that eggplant is going to take about a good hour. So this is a labor of love dish, and if you want something fast, go make the shells with the cream and the peas, because that's a fast meal. This takes a while, but it's well worth it. So do you want to come in? Do you want to come in, pal? And again, that's my dog. So now it's time to bake the eggplant. I have my oven preheated to 425 degrees. Before I turn the oven on, I put 2 racks in the oven, one on the upper middle and one on the upper lower levels. I put in 2 cookie trays on each rack before I turn the oven on, because I want the trays to warm up as the oven warms up. I'm now going to take those trays out of the oven. I'm going to put 3 tablespoons of olive oil on each tray and swirl it around so it covers the entire tray. And then I'm going to layer my eggplant in a single layer on each tray. And the eggplant is going to bake for 30 minutes. After 10 minutes, I'm going to rotate the trays. So the tray I put on the upper level is going to go on the lower, and the tray that was on the lower is going to go on the upper. That's after 10 minutes. After 20 minutes, I'm going to take the trays out and flip the eggplant over. And then I'm going to put them back in the oven, bake them for another 10 minutes until they are golden brown. So 30 minutes total. So I just want to show you how the eggplant looks on the tray. So I've put 3 tablespoons of olive oil on the tray, and I've just layered the eggplant on the tray in a single layer. And now that's going to go in the oven. Okay, we've now come to the easy part, and that is assembling our eggplant parmesan. So I have all of the cooked eggplant. I have my tomato sauce, which is the same tomato sauce that I make for the Sunday gravy and meatballs video. I have the 4 balls of mozzarella that I've sliced. I have about a cup of grated Parmesan and a handful of basil leaves that I just roughly tore apart with my hands. So I'm just going to take a ladle full of the tomato sauce and pour it in the bottom of a square baking pan. And then I'm going to just ladle in the eggplant, overlapping it so it fits neatly in the pan. And as you can see, we lost no crispness from baking the eggplant. This is very, very crispy. And I have to thank the folks at America's Test Kitchen for this particular innovation. I came across their version of eggplant parm where they baked the eggplant in the oven, and I thought, well, I can adapt my grandmother's recipe to that. And that's what I did. So I'm just going to continue to ladle lay the eggplant in, and then I'll show you the next step. So here is our first layer of eggplant, all overlapped in the dish. I'm now going to cover it with one more ladleful of tomato sauce. And you don't want to completely saturate the eggplant with the tomato sauce. You're going to serve it alongside extra tomato sauce. But sometimes a ladleful isn't quite enough. So just, use your best judgment. But you want to leave some of the eggplant exposed, because what is good about this dish is you want that crunch of the eggplant. So I think that is perfect. So that's really as much sauce as you want. Now I'm going to just lay on some of the mozzarella, then a sprinkling of grated Parmesan, and now some torn basil leaves. And now I'm just going to repeat the entire process again with another layer of eggplant. So there is our second layer of eggplant complete. And now I'm just going to put the final layer of eggplant on top. So the final layer is just the eggplant, the tomato, the mozzarella, and the Parmesan cheese. And I'm going to bake it on a cookie sheet in the oven at 425 for 15 minutes, really just until it's warmed through and the cheese is golden and bubbly. I've taken the eggplant out of the oven. It cooked for 15 minutes at 425, and as you can see, it's golden bubbly. And we're just going to let it rest for a few minutes before we dig in. Okay, the eggplant has cooled for a few minutes, and I've cut myself a piece. I put a little bit of extra tomato sauce on top and some basil, and now I'm just going to give it a taste. So I don't know if you can see, but there are all the layers of eggplant. So I've got some eggplant, some mozzarella, some basil, a little sauce. That's my Italian childhood in a bite. There really are no words. I mean, for a dish that takes as long as this one does, your expectations are pretty high, and this meets it. The eggplant is still crisp. Got the brightness of the tomato, the creaminess of the mozzarella. And this is good on its own, with a side of pasta. In a sandwich, it would be amazing. So I'm just going to keep eating. I hope you give this a try. Until next time.